It's almost a new year, my friends, and that means a new approach to the homestead garden for 2026. If you've been around this channel, especially recently, you know there's been a lot of changes here at the homestead. I no longer live here full time, but I'm here almost every day of the week still working on the garden and making awesome videos for you guys. But because I'm not living here anymore, it really means that some things that I did in this garden, I don't really want to do anymore. And there's other things that are entirely new opportunities that have opened up. So in this video, I'm gonna walk around the garden, show you kind of what's going on and where I want it to go in the 2026 season on a project basis, but also kind of my philosophy and approach. And I really wanna hear from you guys what's exciting to you. And even if you have some cool ideas that we can do here at this homestead, because there's still a lot of empty space, and I think we want to fill it out this season. Kicking it off here in the front yard, I have to say, this is the part of the garden I'm the most pleased with because it's very well set up. There's really perfect spacing between all these beds. We have a really great system for getting stuff in and out of these beds. And honestly, it just looks and feels really good. Of course, we're gonna have to get the giant witch and giant skeleton out of here though. And I feel really good about the front yard because it's kind of the homage to the original Epic Garden that I was in about 5 years ago before I even bought and lived in this place. So not much is gonna change here, but I think we wanna try a little bit more verticality in this raised bed garden. That means maybe putting some more bamboo sort of trellises in the short round beds, maybe doing some trellises that go from bed to bed, and perhaps experimenting with some longer season crops up here. This typically is reserved for spring, summer, fall changeover. So we'll really fully reset this raised bed garden every single season, and we might let some of these beds go a little longer this year. I'm out in the street right now because technically the curb strip is part of my responsibility. I don't own the land, but I do own the responsibility to take care of it. Right now, it's just mowed down weeds, and I think this is the year we're gonna convert it into a fully native landscape. The only caveat is, one, I'm not the most experienced native landscaper. I can grow the natives, but I'm not good at designing the space. And number two, it's a 7-foot by 70-foot curb strip, one of the bigger ones that I've ever been in, certainly that I've ever lived at. So we're gonna have to call in some help for a native landscape here, but I think it's going to bring, number one, a lot of curb appeal to the place, but number two, just a more inviting overall structure and bring in a lot of those native pollinators, I hope. Now we're here at the corner of the property. In fact, the very first corner I walked up to 5 years ago when I decided to purchase and put an offer on this home. And what I'd like to do here, first of all, is re-irrigate these citrus right here. There's 4 citrus that don't quite have enough irrigation. My gray water system for my shower only waters those ones over there. So you can see these are quite a bit shorter. So we'll fix the irrigation on this. I'd like to complete this row of planting. So if you look down the middle here, you can see that's where the irrigation ditch is. And so that's why I have trees on either side. But these ones don't come all the way to the same point as this calamansi right here. So I'm gonna put a couple more trees out to here, probably maybe a plum, a peach, some stone fruit. But then, this is where I need your feedback. In this area, it's completely open. I would say it's at least 30 by 30 square feet before you get over to the fig tree, the loquat, and of course, dragon fruit alley. My thinking is to put some kind of winding path that comes off right under the arch over here, goes into that area, allows you to access the citrus orchard and some of the other stone fruit and pomegranates over there more easily, but lets you dot a little bit more organically than a full line of trees, some more fruit trees, maybe some landscaping trees, maybe some shrubs. I don't have blackberries, raspberries, or blueberries currently at this homestead, which is a huge miss. So whether they go over here, on the back fence over there, or somewhere in the backyard where we're going next is kind of up to me, but for sure, I'm having some cane berries in this garden this coming season. Coming into the backyard, this is a big one. This horsetail that my friend Sarah Bendrick told me not to put in, the equisetum, she was right. Why? Because as you go over to all these different spots, we may have just weeded it out. No, we haven't. Look at this. Look right here. Horsetail, right next to my house, about 15 feet away. Absolutely crazy. So although I'm not taking my little nude showers out here anymore, I am suffering from horsetail explosion. So we're gonna do our best to remove this and replace this. The only thing is we do need something that comes up like this because you still do wanna block a little bit of this view. I mean, imagine look what you could see if you just took a little peek. You could see something pretty Pretty naughty. And now we come up on the next major section of the backyard, which I love, but over the years, it's gone through some more epic times and less epic times, and that would of course be the epic pond. Now, there's a couple things we just have to do at this point, and I'll show you. So over here at the pond return, where it's going into the underground reservoir, we have a little bit of algae and clogging, and I think it's gotten to the point where every time we blast it out, it just kind of re-clogs itself. So we may need to do deeper excavation. And then over here at the biofalls, we first of all have the bio balls hanging out because they fall out. Sometimes you gotta let the balls hang out, you know what I'm saying? No, I'm just kidding. So what we've got here is this should really not be up. This should be down there. It should be underneath, and these balls should be on top, accumulating bacteria. But we need a pro to come out and help troubleshoot this because we're at our wit's end here. So you may see the Aquascapes team back out here. And then there's these areas of the pond landscaping that I think we've done a great job with. Like, take a look at the Pride of Madeira. That looks really good. In fact, it's done so well historically that we actually had to remove it from other parts of the pond. It just somehow made its way over there. So you wouldn't think that would spread like crazy, but it actually can. So be careful if you plant that. But up with that pathway as you get towards the biofalls, we haven't really been able to make anything stick there. So I think we're gonna have to put proper irrigation on that section. Otherwise, we're not going to get anything to actually stay, because in the summer, it really is blasting heat. And we can probably steal some water from the pond itself to irrigate, and that might help. So I want to kind of get this riparian zone, or that border between the water and the land, a little bit better landscaped. We've seen a lot of new life come in, especially as we've had all these bird feeders, and I think the pond can return to form in 2026. Okay, over here by the grapes, surprise, surprise, we built an awesome grape trellis, but we promptly did not prune our grapes anywhere near the right way. Honestly, they just got a little bit out of control and unruly, and we got overwhelmed and we kind of forgot about pruning them. So I'll show you what we did and what we're going to do. So we've brought our grapes down to just having one left and right leader coming out on the bottom row and one on the top. We do have a middle line right here, but we're skipping that and going for basically a left cane on the top and bottom and a right cane on the top and bottom, doing something called cane pruning. So you have your trunk here, and then what we've left, actually I'll go over to this one because it's a little bit easier to understand, is you're gonna have one cane coming off this way. We're gonna steal one of these buds and run it out this way next season because we just don't have one on this side. Remember, you skip the middle row, you're gonna come up and you have one going right and one going left. And at the end of next season, you will cut this one completely off, leaving two buds. You'll let one of those become the next year's cane, and one of them will become what's called a renewal spur. And what that allows you to do is have a much more manicured grape system. So these will only go out about 10 buds each. 10, 10, 10, and 10. You'll have 40 total buds per grape, and you should get a lot better production off of that. And you'll keep this a lot tidier, because what was happening is the vine was going literally up into my neighbor's avocado. It was at the top of the apple tree. That is a ton of wasted energy on growth that wasn't producing grapes. So we finally pruned our grapes better, which means we can put another grape in, which we did right there. So there's 1, 2, 3. We're probably gonna put one behind the banana, and that brings us to the banana. So it took a little bit of time, but dare I say, I think we've mastered bananas in the San Diego climate. That is so tall, guys, and it's actually putting out what I think is the beginning of another banana flower. We just harvested the banana from this past season, and we got so many. This right here is about half of the bananas we got, and they are absolutely delicious and a much thicker variety than your standard Cavendish banana. So I've got a couple hands at home, but pretty soon we're gonna have to freeze these unless Paul wants some. Oh, you're supposed to catch that. By the way, we also harvested our very first horseradish here at the homestead. It's already sprouting, but this is the best way we figured out how to preserve it. You store it in some sand, keep it in a cool area, pull it out, grab some of the root off, and use it as you wish, but fun crop to grow. So we're back outside in the test garden, and it's looking pretty barren right now because we're resetting and setting up a bunch of new test experiments. Something I really value about having a garden like this, especially now that it's our workplace and not so much a workplace and a home, is we can really max out as much experimental testing as we want to do, whether that's growing out new varieties for you guys, or just saying what happens if you pour a bunch of milk on a tomato instead of water. We'll see, you know? So if there's cool experiments you think we should run, let me know down in the comments. But right now we're finishing up a sweet potato grow experiment that's taken about 4 months or so, and I'm very curious. We grew it in a bucket, we grew it in the ground, and we grew it in the ground with a bunch of mulch on top. We'll see which one does better. I honestly don't know at this point. The vines seem all intertangled, but we're gonna see. I mean, we've got the space to do a ton of growing experiments, so that'll be a big feature next year. As we get into the proper back garden, I did want to share that we finally come up on year 4 of asparagus, and take a look. It's already starting to spear out. We've got some purple over there. We've got some purple over there and some green. So I can harvest off of this. But yeah, I mean, it's true. It takes a little bit of patience, but once you get it going, you'll have asparagus for many, many decades to come. So in the proper back garden, there's a couple things we're gonna change. Number one, we're probably not doing tomatoes here because we have the root knot nematodes. We're gonna do winter wheat right here and see if we can max a yield out. Last time we tried it, we got a good yield. We baked some bread with it, Jacques and I. We had a lot of fun with you guys. But you know, you put a pound of seed down, you get 2 or 3 pounds out. It's not really what we were looking for. We were looking more for like an 8 to 10 times multiplier. So if we can get that this year, we will be covering that and showing you how we do it. And then as you get into this section, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you remember the original design, which was 8 4x4 grids in ground. I kind of liked it because I like that sort of gritty style gardening. It's just my approach. Obviously, Jacques is rolling over in his Bulgarian grave right now as he hears me say that. This year, we kind of switched it up and we did these sort of 4 triangles, making up sort of a big circular squarish type structure. I still like that. The only problem with this to me is there's not a lot of delineation from when you are or aren't in this garden. So as you come around the backside or even the front over here, there's nothing to say, here's where the garden begins and here's where it ends. And what I mean by that is, you know, when I come around here and I get to the end of this path, I guess you could say we have this little arbor structure, but honestly, this is a temporary structure. But as you come in this way, you have another entry point right here. Okay, so that's not that bad. But then as you come in off the most common pathway to get into this garden, which would be right over here, you actually are blocked to get in. So you've got our whiskey barrels sitting right here, and you've got our smile sort of flower patch sitting right here. There's not an easy way to access the garden right from here. So what I'm thinking about doing is coming off right about here or so, moving these whiskey barrels, creating a little pathway in here, and putting a very clear entrance arbor somewhere in this area so that you can go into this garden. We might actually even add a little light fencing around this area as well. To me, that just gives this garden a little bit more life and a little bit more spice, and I'm looking for that. Other than that, I like the way we've managed it over the last season or so, because unlike seasons prior where we'd go from very lush to completely cleared out to very lush, we kind of have done a little bit more of a rotational cycle here, which is what's nice about having 4 quadrants. You can at least have a couple quadrants going if one is dormant. Okay, we're up on the roof now. Don't worry, I'm being safe. And I will do a solar update pretty soon, guys, because it's been 5 years since we installed all of these panels. Those of you who've been around for a while, you remember that project. So as we come over and look at the property from a top-down view, first of all, we got to take care of this bougainvillea. I like the suggestion to wrap it around this way. So we're probably going to end up doing that. To me, it's crazy that this weird witch is actually at eye level with me as I stand on my roof. So it was the season, it is no longer the season. This witch is going goodbye. So from a top-down view, you can see that front yard just looks really lush and full. I'm really happy with this bougainvillea and dragon alley area. But as I bring it up here, you can see there's just that dead patch right there, which gets a lot of Bermuda grass. It just kind of looks barren. I'd love to put a little more lushness in there in probably a lower maintenance way. And then when you come around the pond, you start saying, hey, look, this could look amazing. Not that it doesn't, but it could look really good if this was all filled in with beautiful, lush, sort of riparian zone plants. So a lot of opportunity this coming season, both in the structure of the garden and some things to kind of refine the space, but honestly, just the variety of plants that I want to grow this year. I want to get really high quality produce out of the garden and not maybe as much yield as years prior. Frankly, we've grown too much many times, but we do donate it, so it's not a big deal. But if there's any other things you think I should be considering, I'd love to hear it. And again, I wanted to say, as we go into a new season, I wanted to say thank you guys for your messages. I mean, literally thousands at this point on some of my recent videos where I've talked about some of the struggles. It's meant a lot to me to know that you're not the only one out there experiencing these types of things, because if you've been in some of the places that I and many of you who commented have been in, you really feel like no one else on earth can understand it. And it's like a reality warp. You go, okay, I understand that you feel bad for me, but you actually don't get it. If you were in my shoes, you wouldn't. So getting those messages from you guys really meant a lot. And hopefully sharing some of the stuff that's gone on with me has helped you guys identify some of that in your own life. I hope you're not experiencing it, but if you are, you now know that you're not alone either. So I wanted to say thank you as you go into 2026, feeling a lot better and excited for what is to come. And of course, as always, good luck in the garden and keep on growing.